Online fraud and scams are heavily dependent on the creativity of the fraudsters, because every fraud is a new fictional story. And one of those stories is the existence of a safe bank account. If you don't know what that is, that's because it doesn't exist. And yet, fraudsters do manage to manipulate their victims into transferring all their money. My name is Danny, and in this episode I will tell you how they do that, but more importantly, how you can identify it so that you can protect yourself. Imagine you're at home doing your own thing when suddenly the phone rings. You pick it up and the person on the other end of the line tells you that it's your bank. In fact, the anti-fraud service of your bank. The person has contacted you because they noticed some unusual transactions on your accounts. To prove it's the bank, the person can give you a lot of details about you and your bank accounts. They tell you to verify yourself with your app or on the web. When you do that, you notice some transactions between your own accounts that you didn't do yourself. Maybe some funds were transferred from your savings account to your current account. Maybe the funds seem to flip-flop between your accounts. How is this possible? The person on the phone tells you that fraudsters have gained access to your accounts and they are trying to get the money out. But since they haven't been able to do that yet, there's still time to protect your money. You need to transfer all of it to a new account that the person has opened for you. It's a safe bank account and the fraudster will not be able to get the money on that account. You're worried, but you want to protect your money, so you transfer as much as you can to the account number provided by the person. Before ending the call, the person on the phone reassures you that everything should be fine now, but to not interfere with the investigation, it's best to wait a couple of days before connecting to your online bank. When all is back to normal, you will be contacted again. Congratulations, or should I say my apologies, but you are now a victim that has willingly handed over your money to a fraudster. You were never contacted by your bank, you were contacted by a fraudster pretending to be your bank. You may be wondering how the fraudster knew the name of the bank, the personal information, and especially how did they manage to execute the transactions that were clearly not done by the victim. That's because the fraud started earlier, on the same day or even the previous day. The fraudster sent out a phishing message that seemed to come from the bank. Fraudsters send out phishing mails that mimic the identity of different banks, and when the victim clicks on the link, the fraudster knows for sure that they are a customer there. But the main goal is to gain access to the online banking. Not only is there a lot of information about the victim, but at most banks, after login, there is no further signature or authorization required to transfer funds between your own accounts. As long as the money doesn't leave the accounts of the victim, there isn't a fraud committed yet. There's no action to take by the bank, even when it may seem like strange behavior. The fraudster can now call the victim and tell the story about the attempted fraud. The victim, surprised by the unexplainable transactions, will believe the fraudster and transfer the funds to the safe account. It is only at that moment that the fraud takes place, done by the victim at the request of the fraudster. Because the safe account is just a normal account, but it's an account that the fraudster controls. You may think that you can spot the fraud by looking at the number that called you, and in most cases you're right. Unfortunately, fraudsters do have the possibility to call you and make it seem as if the number of your bank is calling you. Luckily, it doesn't change the way we can identify the fraud, and even more important, it doesn't change the way we can protect ourselves. There are two main elements that indicate that the story is a fraud. The first one is the safe account that the fraudster presents as a solution. It's an invention. There's no such thing as a safe account. All accounts are protected with the same level of security and safety by the bank. That doesn't mean that there aren't different types of current and savings accounts, but none of them are safer than the others. As soon as the person on the phone starts talking about a safe account, you know you're talking to a fraudster. The second element, which is something that is also used in other stories fraudsters tell, is the fact that you need to take an action yourself. In this case, transferring your money to the safe account. Remember what the fraudster said in the beginning of the conversation. This is your bank. A real bank has access to your accounts. An access that is limited by the laws of the country as well as the laws and regulations of the European Union or other institutions. But maybe most importantly, a bank runs on trust. We trust them to keep our money safe. That is why a bank can take the necessary actions to protect you against fraud. The bank can temporarily block a transaction, refuse a transaction, and put limitations on your bank accounts to avoid further damages. So while they may ask you whether you were at the origin of a particular transaction, they don't need an action from your side to permanently block a transaction. Some banks may offer a confirmation service for suspicious transactions, but that will always happen in the secured environment of the bank. And it will always be clearly stated which action you are taking. A bank will never ask you to transfer your money to a different account for protection. Now that you know how to identify this type of fraud, you also know how you can protect yourself if someone calls you claiming to be from a bank and starts talking about a safe account. Just hang up the phone. If you believed the story of the fraudster and transferred your money to the account of the fraudster, contact your bank immediately. If you're lucky, they may still be able to retrieve the money, but in any case, check your accounts. If there are any transactions that you don't recognize, you should also reach out to your bank. You were probably the victim of phishing. They will check what the fraudster did and help you get back to normal. This type of fraud shows that fraudsters can be very creative, but also that phishing can be used as a preparation. If you want to know more about how to identify phishing to avoid becoming a victim, you can check out the previous episode where I talked about that. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done so before, and please share this episode with everybody that you think can benefit from this information. See you in the next episode.